You're certified bug-free. Bug-free.
Shit, Victor, not bad. I don't know what to say.
Say you'll take this and remember the dosage. 2 whips now, and another 2 in an hour.
So, Cyberpunk 2077 was supposed to be the best game ever made, just like all of these.
And one of the great things about having a fully dynamic game engine is all of this just works.
A decade in development, a huge open world with an infinite number of things you can do, a developer that can do no wrong. Every few years the internet gets all hyped up around a game that promises the world, and we go through the same routine before the inevitable disappointment.
Yo! Yo! It's got
Keanu Reeves.
It's goddamn fucking Keanu Reeves, man. Yo!
But to be honest, the writing was on the wall with this one, and I'm not just speaking from hindsight. I was personally saying this for years and getting shit for it from fanboys. All of this was obvious. A constant series of broken promises, cut content, and an incredibly limited view of actual tangible gameplay. If this is the state the game was released in on the 10th of December, how could they possibly have thought they could hit any of the dates prior to that? Apparently CD Projekt Red said, in relation to the 10th of December release date, I wouldn't say that we felt any external or internal pressure to launch on that date, other than the normal pressure which is typical for any release. That's bullshit. They didn't feel any pressure to release before the Christmas sales, alongside next-gen consoles. CD Projekt Red lied and lied and lied throughout the development of Cyberpunk and continued lying after release, resulting in an unplayable game on last-gen consoles and an outright scam. That's just the facts, that's simply what happened.
On the base PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, it is a different game entirely. It fails to hit even the lowest bar of technical quality one should expect when even playing on lower-end hardware. It performs so poorly that it makes combat, driving, and what is otherwise a mastercraft of storytelling legitimately difficult to look at.
Like what you see?
It is not an exaggeration to say that I felt nauseated after playing because of the terrible frame rate. It really is that bad, and it's very suspicious that CD Projekt Red refused to provide console review copies ahead of launch.
CD Projekt Red is a good company, or at least they were, but you should never trust a company blindly. They're not your friends, not when money is involved. And what CD Projekt Red did throughout this time was scummy corpo business practices. They released a statement which began, first of all, we would like to apologise for not showing the game on last-gen consoles. That's because they wanted you to buy it even though they knew it wouldn't work. It doesn't matter that Sony pulled the game from stores or that they're offering refunds now, it doesn't make up for it. The state of the game on consoles was abysmal. Luckily, I was fortunate enough to play the PC version on the newest hardware, and that's the perspective from which I'll be talking about the game. And it's not to say Cyberpunk 2077 is all bad, it's a visual masterpiece and has one of the most jaw-dropping looking cities that I've ever seen in a video game. The setting is great, the story is well written and engaging, and the majority of the characters are compelling and memorable. You can tell that the writers, graphic designers and artists were masters of their craft and really put their heart and soul into the game. I genuinely would buy this game just to hop in a car and drive around the city, taking in the sights and the artwork and the environment. But the gameplay, unfortunately, it's just not that good. They told us this was an RPG, yet the dialogue options barely make any difference. Putting points in your attributes to unlock specific dialogue options don't really matter from what I could tell. The free life paths don't affect more than the first couple hours, and it's obvious there was a ton of cut content there, especially in the corpo path which I played. There's a right way to progress side quests and a wrong way, which will result in worse outcomes. You know what I mean. The kind of dialogue options where option 1 is say something nice and option 2 is say something dickish for no reason and piss everyone off. Nobody's picking option 2 on their first playthrough, meaning everyone who plays is roughly ending up in the exact same place at the end. You can customise your character, but you can only look at them when they're scowling into a mirror. What's the point? You can't even customise them further once you're in the game world. You have an apartment that you can't interact with at all or do anything in, that never changes. The emails on your computer don't even change. It doesn't feel like an RPG to me, which it was advertised as, because there's no role-playing element. You can't roleplay living in the world because there's no role for you to play. The perk system is pretty cool, but the game is too easy, even on the hardest difficulty setting, which didn't seem to change how the enemy AI reacted at all. The stealth is less complex than Deus Ex Human Revolution, a game made in 2011. You can ping an enemy to instantly see where everyone on the map is standing. You distract them with one of 1,000 Watchdog-like hackable gimmicks, and you choke them out before continuing. You can pick up unconscious enemies to hide their body, but this didn't really matter to me. It didn't matter if enemies were alerted to bodies because the difficulty didn't change. The AI struggles to simply walk a normal straight path. And then stealth became even easier once I got quick hacks which allowed me to render people unconscious from a distance or outright kill themselves. They didn't even seem to react much to sound, and halfway through the game, once I felt confident about what the AI could and couldn't do, I simply sprinted from spot to spot, sliding across the floor as I knew enemies couldn't spot me quickly enough. There's also no real complexity about how you enter a hostile environment. If you don't have points in technical ability to open a door, then there'll always be an easy to reach entrance on a roof literally a few meters beside it. I never really had to do anything complex to get around anywhere, and I completed every single side mission in the game. Again, compare this to Deus Ex Human Revolution, a cyberpunk game with an augmented protagonist that quite literally does every single thing Cyberpunk 2077 tries to do in terms of gameplay, but even better. It's embarrassing, and I don't need to go through the list of bugs. You already know everything that's wrong with this game. The enemies can't chase you, flank you, or do anything. Police spawn in like Dragon Ball Z and can't follow you more than 2 meters. People fly through the air. Most of the driving missions are scripted sequences on rails. There's game breaking bugs out the arse. And nobody can figure out how V sleeps on his fucking bed. And it's not even the big obvious problems that cause me the most concern, as it's very likely those will be fixed or added down the road. It's the small things that nobody either cared enough to implement or had the time to do. Why are there no animations when I get a cybernetic implant? Why do guns just materialise into my inventory when I level up? Why are there 0 things of interest to do in my apartment? Why can't vehicles do anything interesting? I wanted it to be like Knight Rider, where I could talk to my personal vehicle or have them make me a cappuccino, or even drive to the destination I picked on the map while I look at my perks or something. You've seen the reviews, 8s, 9s and 10s. It's like people already settled on the fact this game was some kind of a masterpiece before it was even released. Why was there so much merch for a game that nobody had played? It wasn't the 5th sequel in the series. Nobody had any idea whether Cyberpunk was a load of crap or any good. But what does Cyberpunk 2077 really deserve, as of right now, today? A 6 out of 10. It's an above average game lifted by its setting, story and characters, and dragged down by its bugs, lackluster gameplay and poor role-playing elements. If I were rating Cyberpunk based solely on its story, characters and world, it'd be a 9 out of 10, and I say that even though the obvious and glaring cut story content pains me deeply, and I expect that in a year's time with all the fixes, patches and additions it will rise a lot higher in my estimation. But I'm using a real rating scale, with a 5 being an average fine game, meaning a 6 is an above average game I would recommend, just with a lot of caveats. And I'm sorry console gamers, you got scammed by a corpo. By the way, play Hades, it's a great game and it should have won Game of the Year.
It's a danger pretty here in Night City.